The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Brecken Farms, Stonewall Stud, IRT, it's your horse and our passion, Australasian-wide Garrard's Horse and Hound, Ricciero Racing Stables, Lincoln Farms, the clubs Alexandra Park, Cambridge Raceway, Ashburton Trotting Club, Addington Raceway and Harness Racing New Zealand. Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Your Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Let's get straight to Michael Guerin. Contrasting week last week, a rather wet Geraldine Cup day, and the Inter-Dominion got away on Saturday night.
Yeah, hi Greg, big hi to everybody. I really enjoyed Saturday. It reminded me of the old days at Westport and occasionally reefed in the mud. I thought there's some really cool stories we'll talk about today coming out of Orari and Geraldine. And then we flipped over into that Inter-Dominion where the only horse we had in the series, Greg, who ironically is from that part of the world, won an Inter-Dominion heat. So look, I thought it was a lots of fun weekend. Kind of good, Greg, to have a little bit less pressure after Cup Week. And now we're starting to think, well, where do all those Cup Week horses go? So let's try and answer that for the people watching this at home in the next 55 minutes or so.
Let's get straight into it then, Michael, and head to a rather damp Orari, take in the Geraldine Cup. The all-important start, because there were a few that got tangled up, and the three I'm talking about were all from the same stable. Of course, I talk of Shan Noble, Pace and Pride and Sam Hara. And Pace and Pride copped the worst of that and was essentially out of play. The other two actually went terrific after that, but it was the turn of Coravelli Star after a very good third the week before in the Timaru Cup, was taking on a far stronger lineup here, including horses like Laver there in the colours of Jeff and James Dunn. But through on the inside, Sam Thornley and Coravelli Star in the colours of Bruce Negus, although it's quite hard to tell there, was successful.
Another lunge, but Coravelli Star in front and gets the prize. Coravelli Star wins the cup from Sam Hara. Laver came again in the last 50 metres.
Sam, congratulations, the Geraldine Cup win. I'm sure that's a big thrill for you.
Yeah, no, it was a big thrill. I'm just very thankful for Bruce for putting me on. Yeah, couldn't be happier.
It's not only your biggest win in the game, but it's your 15th win, which is significant.
Yep, no, we are driving Premier night, so that's good. Hopefully Royal Dow will be in a few of those 3-year-old races after Christmas, so that'll be the main goal.
Family lineage, you've got a bit of breeding, so I suppose the game was always going to be part of your life.
Yep, no, I was always going to be part of harness racing. Just straight after school, went straight into it. Yeah, that's about it.
You're standing here in some pretty famous colours, the colours of Fred Fletcher, and I know you're gleaning so much of his knowledge and he's moulding you, I suppose, as a horse person.
Yeah, no, he's good to work for. You learn a lot. He tells you what you're doing wrong, so that's the main thing. Yeah, so we get in there slowly.
Look, your first win, Copperhead Rose, you took a few learnings out of that as well. You got a bit of a spell on the sidelines. It was an auspicious start, but you've really honed your craft now.
Yeah, no, I'm just careful now after my first drive after got in that big suspension, but we're coming back now, so that's the main thing.
That was more about just the excitement, wasn't it? It was more, I'm actually out here doing it and I'm winning a race at Addington Raceway.
Yeah, no, it didn't feel like I'd given it that many hits, but the video told the story.
Yeah, well, let's not focus on that now because you're certainly doing a great job, and congratulations on the Geraldine Cup victory, and well done on getting to the 15 wins as well.
No, perfect, thanks for that.
Michael, we were lucky enough to have him on SENZ Radio on Sunday as well. He speaks very well. He's driving in very good form. That was a big thing for Bruce Negus to put him on. Coravelli Star, who'd only had one other drive in a junior drivers race at Oamaru, and he won that as well. And Coravelli Star's an excellent grass track performer and clearly enjoyed the conditions.
Yeah, first time I'd spoken to Sam on the weekend. Seems a nice young fella. That's always going to get you a long way in life if you can talk to people and be polite. Bruce Negus is a guy who's been around for an awfully long time. Most people associate him with courage under fire. But, Greg, he's also been a wonderful supporter of junior drivers. He's not scared to put them on. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful a guy like him who's had so much success supports people who maybe are still, just finding their way in harness racing. I like Coravelli Star. I was quite keen on it a couple of times during Cup Week as a minor chance, Greg, and Look, you think he's going to probably end up close enough to Open Class, like that sort of Franklin Cup, maybe even Kaikoura Cup level. Whether he's good enough to be a New Zealand Cup horse, I don't know, Greg. But he's got speed and he's a tough little horse. And those Country Cup circuit races, which obviously change shape next year because the Easter Cup sort of becomes a Country Cup's final, Greg, that would seem an absolutely perfect type of series for him. So lots of feel-good stories out of it. I didn't mind the fact that as much as the punters didn't enjoy it, the All-Stars all clambered together at the start. I liked seeing somebody else win, Greg.
Yep, and Laver was excellent again, coming back at the line like Laver can. I thought Shan Noble was good, and obviously Sam Hara and Pace and Pride just have to put to one side. And of course, Cora Valley Star will head to the Akaroa Cup on Sunday, where it takes on the Timaru Summer Cup winner in Above and Beyond. So some of that form and the form lines around those starting to shape up, although I think there might be some tired horses come out of Geraldine because that was about as heavy as it gets. Does wear a kicking strap, which indicates that Cora Valley Star has been a bit of a work in progress too for Bruce Negus, Bruce and Colleen. So they're getting some of the rewards now. Win number 6 in its career and up over $80,000. Moving away from Geraldine just for the moment, we'll go back there again shortly. Let's go to Addington Raceway, where there were some excellent races there on Friday night. Allegra is the first one we want to have a look at. This is in a heat of the Dunstan Series, where the final's on New Year's Eve. Here she is in front. Covergirl goes to the inside. Remember Me to the inside of them, and True Fantasy, who had made a move round to the park position, eventually holding second place. And post-race, we'll hear from driver John Dunn.
Allegra wins virtually untouched by 2 lengths. True Fantasy, a good effort second. Remember Me third, and then Cover Girl.
Positively driven tonight and an excellent performance.
Yeah, great. Like you say, use that early gate speed, and it was helped drawn inside probably the 2 to beat. And but I like the way she hit the line too. The last, when I asked her to go the last furlong, she sort of got away again. So looking promising. Head up north now.
Yeah, that last 100 metres was exactly what you're looking for going into a Group 1 series.
Yeah, dead right, and sort of on the up. She sort of had a couple of quiet runs earlier on, then things went a wee bit pear-shaped, but I think we've got her back on track now, so hopefully.
Right, the grand final's obviously New Year's Eve. What does she do between now and then, and how many starts will she have?
One more on the 17th up in Auckland, and I'm going to work her this Auckland way this week, and probably hopefully head up to Auckland next weekend. So the weekend coming, and have a couple of weeks up there prior to the head out on the 17th, then we'll go to the 31st.
She's certainly up to it, isn't she? But it's a deepish sort of crop, isn't it?
It's a really good crop, right? Like, there's a couple of really good fillies up there, and the ones from down here that will go up there. So yeah, she's going to be on a top form to be competitive.
Owned by the Iron-Ons, out of that wonderful filly and mare in Safedra, Michael. $1.80 the price around True Fantasy to win the final. $4.40 in from $6 from Friday night for Remember Me, and around $5 Allegra. And the chances don't stop there. It's a good series.
It is. And Lady of the Lights, unbeaten in 5 up here in the north, and she's down to racing on Friday night, Greg. I think it's a really tasty crop. I don't think, as good as True Fantasy has been, I don't think she's going to dominate this crop at all. I can see out of the top 8 races, maybe 3 or 4 different winners. Alexander Park's going to be interesting because it's such a gate speed track. Whoever ends up in front of some of these races is going to be really interesting. I think it's a good even balanced crop. Maybe True Fantasy's the best at the moment, but I do think Remember Me could be a big improver, Greg. So, yeah, by no means would I be taking $1.80 to find out, albeit True Fantasy did race extremely well and was able to come from back in the field, beating a lot of these horses, or some of these in the crop anyway, last autumn.
Yeah, and that wasn't the case most of the night at Addington. A good example of that, and I'm with Remember Me as well. I think she's a cracking chance for that final. And I spoke to Crandell Giddy. He said every second day works right-handed. No different, really enjoys it, so no problem there. Let's have a look at the Sire Stakes Silver and check out the horse that finished 5th in the Sire Stakes, Casino Action. In front, in the unfamiliar colours of Tollerman Lodge here, Crandell Giddy leaving them behind, Cran and Chrissy, so that's $100 that they have been relieved on. But in front here, Michael, it's Harania jumping through the middle in the colours of Mark Jones, and Cyrus, who hasn't had much luck in recent good time charging into second place ahead of Cut and Run, who'll get its chance again on Saturday night. But casino action, probably surprisingly beaten Michael at Timaru when having his first run back from that race in the Sire Stakes final. But in front, that was a masterclass. Blair Orange kitted to them. I think they went 223 overall, and he was able to outsprint them in the end.
Looked like a heat, Greg. A race like a heat. I know it was a consolation type race, but one of those races where so often in heats, as we saw with Allegra before, and we're going to see a lot during the Inter-Dominion coverage, they jump to the lead, no one goes near them, horses run home really well, and that's it, done. And you see a lot of it leading into carnivals and on the back end of carnivals, Greg. Carnival racing so intent, but so often leading into those carnivals or after a carnival, people, the horses are getting tired-ish for a race like this, so they're not going to go to war with them. He adds a bit of depth and more importantly, gate speed to some of these races, Greg. So I don't think he's any superstar casino action, but I think he's got a card or two to play in some of the major races coming up next season when these horses eventually turn 3, Greg. It feels like they've been 2 for about 2 years.
Doesn't it? Race number 5 out of Addington on Friday night was won by Manhattan. This one trained by Bob Butt, and his team's racing well. That's him in the predominantly green colours, ducking to the inside. Another interesting part out of this race was Angel and Montana went for a run that wasn't there. Now, entitled to get in the passing lane was Manhattan. There was an inquiry, but those placings were never going to change. Wider out, Sweet Affinity charges through the middle there. She's good with a sit and sprint run like that. And Show Me Heaven, who came 3 wide on her own for the last lap, was very brave in third and might be hard to place in the next few weeks. That head-on shot clearly showing there that the passing lane was Manhattan's to own. 2:22, really good time overall. One of these horses that's been going around against the best, Michael, and not having much luck from wide barrier draws, had the advantage there of barrier 5 and was heavily backed with the book too. I think it was $6 or thereabouts into about $3.50. But gee, that Bob Butt team, they have been doing some excellent things lately, and that is not about to stop.
No, they're flying, and he's also good grass track trainer, but also good grass track driver because he doesn't weigh very much. So you're right, Bob's team's a team at the moment where not only do you want to back them, but clearly they are being backed with the bookmakers as well. Pretty decent type of horse, Manhattan. Again, wouldn't be surprised if it turned up in some better races next season, Gregory.
All right, let's have a look at the best class race of the night and the class horse that returned to the winner's circle. Her name is Stylish Memphis. Now, she's heading north. She'll be there for the big mares races, including the Group 1 Queen of Hearts. In front, in the hands of Mark Purdon, who hadn't sat behind her since she was winning in Sydney. Of course, the ladyship getting the business done here and doing it really nicely. Let's hear from Mark Jones in terms of where she's heading.
Stylish Memphis has won. Photo second and third.
I suppose there's an element of relief there.
Yeah, definitely, Greg. Always good to get the good horses back in the winner's circle, and all the trouble we've had with her, it's just good to get her back.
You pinch hitted by putting M. Purdon on. Of course, he's had Group 1 success with her in Australia, and he was very positive.
He drove it perfect, and we were a bit in a dilemma who would drive it when Ricky got suspended, and I thought I might have to put myself on and then realise what the job Mark had done in Aussie, so it's pretty good we can call on a great driver like him, and you couldn't get it driven any better.
All right, she's already now on the truck and in the north. What's her program up there?
She'll start at Auckland on the 17th in the Breeders' Stakes, then head on to the Queen of Hearts on the 17th, and at this stage that's the finish of that campaign, and she flies out to Auckland, to Australia on the 19th. To Jack Trainers and continue to race in Sydney. She may go to Melbourne for the Group 1, but we're probably leaning against that just with the Melbourne track. If you draw bad, it's pretty hard. So she'll race through in Sydney till the Queen to the Ladyship Mile that she won last year, and if she can win that, she hopefully get an invite to the Miracle Mile. But at this stage, the Ladyship Mile is the main aim.
Right. So domestically, the 10th and the 17th. Mark, what do you put it down to? The need for the break for a start, and obviously the fact that she's now back and forth.
She just needed a break, and then she had feet troubles, and she defibrillated at home one day, and we just ran out of time for the Cup, and it's probably frustrating because she's quite relaxed in that this time in, and the feet seem great at the moment. The blacksmith's done a great job, and she just seems pretty well, and she's in pretty good condition. So going forward, I think she will improve a lot, and the hard race from Menangle will get her probably a lot fitter and sharper. So I think she's in for a pretty good few months.
Yeah, with that win for owner Wayne Higgs, took her earnings past $500,000, Michael. And when you think of when she won the New South Wales Oaks and Mark Purdon was involved, and just a smart move there by Mark Jones to put him back on. I did actually go and see her straight after the race when Mark was washing her down, and she is a bit bigger in condition, so there's plenty to work with going forward. She's
going to need to. She sounds like she's got a busy time coming up, Greg. It's going to be a very strong Queen of Hearts here in the north. Better Twist is confirmed for that. So she's come back from Australia from her gallant performance in the Breeders' Crown over there. She's staying with Brent Mangos, and Mark and Natalie will pick her up when they come north over December. So Better Twist against a Miracle Mile contender in Stylish Memphis and the Queen of Hearts. That'll be a lot of fun. Bella Montana is another horse who could potentially turn up there, Greg. So there's lots going on in that space, but she just seems as good as she was the other night, even better at Menangle, where she's won, obviously, the two big Group 1. So she's kind of an underrated horse. You just told me she's won $500,000. I don't know why that surprises me, but it does. I should have realised that. And she's raced in a Miracle Mile, which, Greg, when you look at that race last week, makes her price seem quite luxurious. Probably learned a lesson there too with Pelosi. Greg, I think she's not as good when they burn early. I understand 100% what Blair was trying to do. Get off the gate, got the beautiful run. Clearly, she's best saved for one run, which is a total nightmare for punters, Greg, because when you start backing horses best saved for one run, you end up losing a lot more money than you do winning.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you there. That's what Blair was trying to do, get the absolute best possible run for her. But yeah, when they're running home in 54, 55 seconds week in, week out, and you're off the speed, it's a real challenge. She was pretty good in second, but Stylish Memphis too good there. Sticking with the Mark Jones theme, on Sunday he was able to win two races in two codes. Yes, Southern Storm was successful here at Addington Raceway in the afternoon and earlier in the afternoon, and dashes up the passing lane here in the hands of Samantha Otley. So it gained its maiden success and did it in really good style. And then about, 5 hours down the road, maybe a little bit longer, at the Cromwell meeting. So that was win number one on the day, and he had a pretty good weekend at Mark Jones. He had a win at Orari and obviously Stylish Memphis. And here's Feelin' the Power for the Feelin' team from up your way, Michael, in the hands of Cosy Azano, winning at Cromwell the last race there. Now, Mark's not the first trainer to have won in both codes on the same day. John Parsons has done it at least once that I can remember. A horse called Young Jim was winning, and also Clarissa out of that wonderful family that John and Karen bred from. So they had done it before, but they did it at a Forbury Park meeting, which was run at in the Beaumont meeting, which was run at Wingatui. So to train them in two different areas wouldn't have been done too often.
I think a lot more of it's sneaking into harness racing. I mean, if you went through the top 10 people on the Premiership, probably half of them have had a galloper of some sort. Plenty of people own gallopers. A lot of people don't realise Mark Purdon at one stage mucked around with some gallopers. Obviously, Roy and Barry had a pretty decent galloper at one stage. Or Stephen Reed has had some nice gallopers along the way. And obviously plenty more, John and Karen being two of the big barns who have done it, and no one bigger, of course, than Graham Rogerson, who's been at the top of the Premiership for both. I think it's a real strength, Greg. We and lots of other people also concentrate on both codes, and I think you'll learn a bit from both codes. Yep. You can watch how somebody does something and learn about it, and you can take that back to your own code or not. Look at Fred Kersley, the greatest driver WA ever had, and trained northerly. So I don't think it's anything that harness racing needs to be scared of. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think the more often you interact between the two codes, the more likely you are, like Roger has, to bring those other owners across and get them a share in a harness horse. So good on Mark. It's a hell of a lot of work goes into that sort of activities, Greg. And as I said, he's not the only one, and I think it's good for both codes.
Yep, it absolutely is. Now, with our intrepid reporter, which is that other bloke, Michael Guerin, we were able to get a bit of a northern update from Alexandra Park on Friday night. The first was around South Coast Arden with Brent Mangos. Here's what Mango had to say.
Must be nice to be back freelance driving. Mango, couple of wins back-to-back at Alexandra Park. That'll help.
Yeah, a bit of a rarity in these days, Mick, but no, it's good. Yeah.
On the more important note, South Coast Arden getting picked up on the weekend. What's the plans for him?
Well, Mick, at this stage, he's going to miss the Christmas meeting here at Auckland because they've made them handicapped conditions, so he's already got 30 metres. He's not a great quick beginner, so look, 30, 40 behind, hard to win round Auckland, get gut buster runs. So, look, we've decided to give him an extra week off, so he's had a fortnight, and he'll just bring him up quietly and trial him mid-January, and then at this stage, Cambridge have got a mobile $20,000 race at the 27th of January, and then he'll either head to Sydney or have one more run here if there's a race available.
Have you taken horses from your stable to Sydney before? Because we know you've campaigned horses in Melbourne a bit. Have you spent much time at Menangle?
I only went once. Better Cover Lover went over and raced in the Ladyship Mile. I think it was nearly the first year that Menangle opened, to be honest. And I haven't really been back there since. No.
What do you do to train a horse for a Miracle Mile? Is it similar to training a horse for a New Zealand free-for-all or a Jules, or is there something different you do to get ready for Menangle-style racing?
He's easy enough horse to train, Mick, really, and I don't think I didn't train him any different to when he normally does to when he won the Jules. Probably a bit more shorter stuff than the longer stuff, but the racing will probably be more beneficial to him, Mick, than anything.
Miracle Miles at the start of March. Have you talked to the connections about anything past that? Because obviously we have the potential for a new slot race in April and, of course, the Auckland Cup at the back end of May. So do you see yourself going that deep into the season?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, that is why I thought, well, if he has a nice couple of weeks off now and bring him up quietly, our plan is to bring him straight home after Miracle Mile for the Auckland Cup and the Cambridge.
Romeo Shard is a horse who showed plenty over the spring. Did he come home as well?
Yes, he came home. Look, he's probably going to have another 2 or 3 weeks off. He's grown a hell of a lot and lacks a little bit of strength, even though he sort of races tough. He was in the right grade to race like that. Jump up 2 or 3 grades, he wouldn't be able to go like that. But look, he'll strengthen up and probably be a nice horse sort of later on in the season.
It's been 2.5 weeks since you trained the winner of the New Zealand Free-for-All. What was that experience like? What was it like being at home? And I'm sure you had a lot of people ringing and texting. I'm sure it was a very busy couple of days, Mango.
Yeah, it was actually. It was really nice, to be honest. Nothing like being there, but obviously we weren't. And but look, it was. Had so many people ringing, as you say, text through, and it was really good.
So great to get that update from Brent Mangos. Of course, a couple of wins for him on the night. Some Chevron, what was the other one? Dance Till Dawn, both for Robert Dunn. So, Mango obviously having success driving-wise and a good update on South Coast Arden.
Yeah, really important for people who want to be betting, Greg. What we're seeing here is a change of that December meeting. So the Franklin Cup, which is a cool race on December 31, no South Coast Arden, no Self-Assured, no Copy That. We know Copy That is heading to Victoria early. So the big guns aren't there, but what you're going to slide into is Kruger's heading there. We hear from soon that BD Joe might be heading there. And you'll get to some of those Chernobyl type horses there, Greg. I don't mind that. I don't love it, but I don't dislike it. But most importantly from Mango, no Victoria. So no Hunter Cup. The Miracle Mile's a big dance for him, and then that back end of the season. That's really encouraging for the slot race at Cambridge, and more importantly, I think, for the Auckland Cup, Greg, that trainers like them, and I've spoken to Mark Purdon this week, as have you, Self-Assured, not going to either Sydney or Melbourne, looking towards the Auckland Cup Carnival, as will Copy That. So we're going to bring those horses through a Franklin Cup, Greg, and we're going to add them to those horses who are already in open class. I think that's a hugely positive sign if they all turn up for that Auckland Cup on May 29th.
Yeah, I totally agree, Michael. Moving away from Cup class for a moment, John Dickey, he's back at the helm, and Michael had a chance to have a chat to him about how that's all going and what the future holds.
Well, John, you're back at work and you've got your name back on the stationery. How big a deal was John Dickey Racing Stables going to be over the summer? Is there lots of horses in work?
No, not at all, Mick. We're actually doing 10, and there's just me and my partner Linda with a guy part-time comes in the mornings, and no, it's been quite good actually.
Okay, so is the idea to just ease around the racing season and not be getting too many more horses about you or going to the yearling sales and doing anything too silly, John?
Yeah, no, we're certainly going to the yearling sales, Mick, but we're going to sell another one this year. No, not going to buy any more. I've got enough that I breed myself, and it'll keep me busy for 2 or 3 years, Mick, and then me and Linda want to just try and do something else and down the track and train a couple of gallopers.
Well, a horse that will be bringing you to Alexandra Park a lot is Old Town Road. Very good 2 starts ago. Tonight, excellent and showed really sharp speed.
Yeah, he's got high speed, Mick. It's a horse we've been waiting for, and he got a couple of stone bruises, the one that took about 6 months to come out in a back foot. And he went back into work and did this, got another one in the front foot. He's just one of those horses, Mick. If there was a stone on the track, he seemed to stand on it. But he's always showed ability, and I don't think the time's done him any harm at all. But yeah, he's a lovely horse.
Okay, how far do you think he can go? Because I would have thought, John, on what we've seen so far, he's easily a 5 or 6 win horse.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Mick. We're just having a good ride at the moment. We'll just take things as they come, and yeah, if he only wins 5 or 6, so be it. But if he keeps going, well, we'll ride that ride too. Any
phone calls from the agents knocking on the door?
Yeah, we've had a few people ask us, but Ben and Karen Cord have been really good clients of mine. Hence, that's one reason that I'm carrying on for a couple of years, because these clients have been really good to me, and obviously this horse and along with another couple of Bens. And we've been waiting so long to get him to the racetrack, Mick, and then everyone wants to buy him off us. So, yeah, sure. Well, I think at this stage, Ben said we'll keep racing him. I'm happy with whatever decision he makes.
John, a couple of years ago when you and Josh were training in partnership, you had about 3 or 4 or even 5 open class trotters. We know some of them have headed offshore. What's happened to one of them who we haven't seen for a long time, and Paramount King?
Yeah, Paramount King's actually, he's won a couple of trials just in the last month, Mick, but then he's just went off a bit in the hock, so we've had to get that re-injected, and so he should be back racing in the new year, hopefully. Yeah, he's been a bit of an enigma sort of a horse, and it's hard to get him back when they're at that age too, Mick.
So great to get that insight there from John Dickey. He's got a pretty fair horse there, Michael, in Old Town Road. He and Linda just training the 10 horses, and Paramount King, he has been an enigma, no question, but he's got a motor.
Yeah, look, good to see Paramount King coming back, and he'll slot nicely into that December racing, Greg, because we're not going to have the Sunday Suns of the world there. Old Town Road's a good horse, though. I said to John, is he a 5 or 6 win horse? I probably discounted him a couple, Greg. Wouldn't be surprised if the Calder's Ben and Karen want to stay with him in the country. Greg, he ends up making his way towards a better grade. Just how far he goes, I guess we'll find out. But already, Greg, seeing he can do 2 different things. Led the start before, panelled them. From there, came from off the speed. And you've seen enough racing at Alexandra Park. The people watching this show have seen it. They know horses don't often sprint at their 3rd start like that at the park, Greg.
No, absolutely not, and break 240 and just do it on their ear. So he's a pretty smart sort of a customer. Another stable that, well, they've got plenty of customers. In fact, they've got over 100 in work, or 100 on the books anyway. Michael also caught up with Steve Telfer to get the latest on BD Joe.
Well, Steve, no race for BD Joe tonight. Are we hoping to see him next week? Because those Christmas races are coming around pretty quick.
Yeah, look, I gave him a week off, and he's thrilled me with his training since he's come back, and he's ready to go. So we'll nominate next week at the races, and I'm sure they'll get a few, because we'll have a few, and they'll be able to getting ready for the Christmas races.
Okay, so a race like the Franklin Cup is on the radar.
Yeah, he's going to start Summer Cup, Franklin Cup, and they're both standing start races. He's had no standing start races. He's been very good at the trials, but races are different, so we need to get him ready for that.
You talk about different, Steve. You're doing something different this weekend coming up. I believe you're taking 8 yearlings to the trials. Now, I know technically they're 2 in the old, but they're still yearlings now. That's good numbers. Do you like what you got around you?
Yeah, look, we have. We've got 32 yearlings to work through, and I've sort of staggered them. So we got the first 12, and of those first 12, there's 8 heading off to the trials next week. So really pleased with what they're doing. They seem strong, and they're good gated and working well, and got a variety of owners and a variety of breeds. Yeah.
The business outlaid some huge money last year for the major reality filly. She's not going to be one of those 8. She just had a slight setback.
Yeah, she was working down with those ones, and just last week she she was a little sore when warming up, so we took her in, and Claire reported that she just slipped in the paddock and hurt her shoulder muscle. So she's just had the week on the walker, and she'll start next week. But she's jumping out of her skin now after a week off, and I'm sure it won't be too long before she hits the trials.
All right, the $320,000 plus GST question. Can she run?
Yeah, she can run. She's got a really nice way of going, and when she looms up, in some of her work, she's already ran good times at home. So when she looms up, she looks like she's got a bit of potential.
What's the experience like of running an inter-island stable? Because horses racing at different tracks all over the weekend, horses racing here tonight. It must be a lot of management, Steve, along with a lot of horse training.
Yeah, look, it's my role's changed a lot in the last 12 months, but I've lent on a lot of the South Island people that I know, and Tim and Dave and the crew down there have been very good, because I don't know a lot about their racetracks and whatever. And look, it's all working out well at the moment, and we have got big numbers. I think there's over 100 on the book, so there's plenty of horses there.
So good insight there from Steve Telfer, 35 metres behind, first standing start. I suppose, Michael, Cambridge Thursday night for BD Joe, if you're going to have your first standard. It sounds like he's been fine at the trials, or from the vision that I've seen he has been anyway, but standing on your own and being able to follow through and chase them is probably a pretty good start.
Yeah, very clean-gaited horse, very sensible type of horse, well-educated horse. I like what they're doing here. They're looking ahead to the Franklin Cup. They could have gone to the mile at Alexandra Park on Friday night. They said, no, we've got a plan. And that plan involves that Franklin Cup. So again, it's going to be a really nice, tasty, second open class tier, or verge of, the next big thing type Franklin Cup. So starts at Cambridge Thursday night. I think he's a pretty good horse for the Chariots of Fire. And I think the Chariots of Fire, Greg, could potentially see him. Kruger's confirmed to be heading there after the Franklin Cup. And Mark Purdon's saying it's all about faith, who races at Addington this week. If he keeps on winning, if he keeps in that confidence zone we found him in during Cup Week, he could go there, Greg. So ironically, it could end up being that the Chariots of Fire is the biggest New Zealand representation of any of the major races in Australia in the first part of next year, Greg.
All right, before we go to our first break, let's go back to Geraldine from last Saturday and race 10 on the program, which was quinelled by the Phil Williamson team, Springbank Mason and Jimmy Carter. It was the Lockheed Martial Memorial, and I know Phil was absolutely delighted to be winning this race, Michael, because when he drove his first winner, Lockheed Martial was calling at the Geraldine meeting. Coincidentally, it was on the same day that Jim Curtin drove his first winner in Westburn View. So to Lorraine and the family, Lockie was such an integral part of the Mid-Canterbury harness racing scene. Of course, Tinker Castleton, he had good success with her as well. He was just a hell of a gentleman, and I know that the family were there with a dress rug, and although the conditions weren't great, Michael, it was a really nice backstory, if you like, that the Williamsons were able to quinella that, and Lockheed Martial's certainly gone, but will never be forgotten.
No, it had an enormous impact on harness racing, and as you said, a real gentleman of the game. And it's great, Greg, that people can win these races, and it evokes those memories and evokes that respect, and you can talk about what people have done, because sometimes people do pass on and you don't get a chance to talk about them. So to Lockie's family, I'm sure it wasn't the day they were hoping for weather-wise, but to know that Phil respected that moment so much for what it was, that's just as special as a photo.
Yep, certainly is. We're about to take a short break here on your box seat. On the other side, we'll head across the Tasman because, as we know, it's Inter-Dominion time. Welcome back into Your Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. And with Garrards, we need to head across to the Inter-Dominion Series. And the first night of heats, of course, was on Saturday night. Let's take in the paces in racebook order. Here's the favourite for the series, Michael, in King of Swing. He's at $2.20 for the final. And on this performance, it's probably not surprising.
Look, he wasn't scary dominant, Greg, but he was going to win this a long way from home. You'll see him being tapped up there because he gets a bit bored sometimes, and then Luke just sits up here and he just cruises home. He's just got that great gate speed, Greg. He will head to Bathurst for the next round of heats on Wednesday night, and he has a wide draw. Now, just a word of caution here for punters. I'll explain this to you as easily as possible after the Expensive Ego heat because they're in the same position. So here's Expensive Ego in the next heat. He got the lead off Ultra Orlando, who's the horse you see him behind in the Jack Callaghan colours. And once he got the lead, he was always going to run away and bolt him. They actually came home in almost identical times, about 26.1 and 26.2 for the last 400. So Ultra Orlando's held the others easily, and that's important for Wednesday night too. But this horse probably got more of a head of steam up than King of Swing. He was also fitter. He's raced more than King of Swing has recently, Greg. So to the eye, Expensive Ego more impressive. Here was the upset heat. Malcolm's Rhythm is the horse in the trail and blasted off the gate by Josh Aiken, then cunningly took a sit on Spirit of St. Louis, who's the horse who's in front in Luke's colours again. Real battle up the home straight, and Malcolm's Rhythm, who's trained in Victoria, gets up to just nose out Spirit of St. Louis, who probably wasn't really ideally suited by being in front, but he had to be there because Josh basically handed him the lead, and Luke would have been mad not to take it. Lineup, who's finishing third there in the Rosati colours, was massive. Came from last to sit parked. So the horses you've seen there, Greg, let's talk about Expensive Ego and let's talk about King of Swing. They're both drawn wide at Bathurst. That's over 17:30 late on Wednesday night. Now, Bathurst is really well cambered for the first inside 6 horses, but the 7th and 8th horses, Greg, end up on sort of a lip on the track. A lot of tracks have them. That lip where you're on sort of a flat spot. And Luke McCarthy said, look, that's not ideal. I can't blast off the gate with either of them, Expensive Ego or King of Swing. And they're awfully short with the TRB. So what he said is, I'll balance up and I'll go forward, but I may not have time to get there in time to get the lead because it's only 17:30. So if you're taking the short odds about those two horses, Greg, you're taking short odds probably, not certainly, but probably you're going to sit parked to have to win. Now, Expensive Ego naturally sits parked. He sat parked to in a Chariots of Fire, and he ran second in a Miracle Mile sitting parked. So it won't probably bother him, and I would expect Luke to board up the leader down the back straight. So I think he'll win. King of Swing will also probably win, Greg, but he's about $1.18. And I don't want to take $1.18 sitting parked because I don't imagine if things get hairy in the last 200 of that race, Luke is going to be really asking him for his absolute best with the whip. So for those who are betting in the heats on Wednesday night, yes, they should both win. Yes, they may have to do it slightly tougher than they did the other night when they could lead, Greg. And then the other heat, which features Robin's Playboy, who actually galloped last week when he got too keen in behind him, sees him, Ignatius, Malcolm's Rhythm, who's really quick off the gate, and Ultra Orlando from Barrier 4 is also quick. Greg, they're going to burn here. They're really going to burn. And I can see Robin's Playboy sitting on the marker pegs doing no work, being a chance. My best guess is that Ultra Orlando probably crosses to the lead, Greg, and he's around 2.9 as we filmed this with the New Zealand TAB, and that'll give him a chance. So the McCarthys still have a stranglehold on the series, Greg. I'll be stunned if they don't win it, but probably with horses like Mark Da Vinci, Triple Eight, Robin's Playboy, Ignatius. This is probably the week, Greg, or the round of heats where they're willing to roll the dice and say, if we can get the lead, we might stay in front of you. So I think we might see a few more cat and mouse tactics and a bit more daring from some other drivers in those 3 pacing heats on Wednesday night.
Yeah, they should be flying around Bathurst. $9 into $5 for Robin's Playboy, who, you're right, was over racing and did look like he had a bit to offer though. So from Barrier 1, he will get his chance. Let's go to the Trotters series though, and where there is real Kiwi interest, because here's the Williamson colours in the hands of Anthony Butt with Majestic Man. He was good, Michael. He didn't blow them off the track, very much like King of Swing, but he got the job done.
Look, he did, and we spoke to Anthony Butt on the radio on Sunday, and he said, look, there's a bit more in the locker. Is Majestic Man racing as well as he was a year ago? Probably not. Is this series very strong? No. He's got gate speed, Greg, and he'll probably lead, or almost certainly lead, from barrier 2 in the last race on Wednesday night, and it's 17:30, so that will suit him. So I think he'll go back to back. This was the more competitive heat. Great story. So here is Tough Monarchs in front. We know him well. He drops out. He was very poor. Taking the lead's Pink Galahs in those green colours, but she had done too much work. They're coming from everywhere. And here's Timothy Red. You're a harness racing fan in New Zealand. You're saying, Timothy who? Timothy what colour? Never heard of him. Actually trained by some wonderful people, and Joe and Mary Rando. A lot of people would know Amanda Rando, their daughter, who's a journalist. Joe and Mary have had trotters racing at Menangle since they opened the joint. They love it, Greg, by Muscle Hill out of Aleppo Midas, who was a really good mare. So this is a well-bred horse. This is as well-bred as any trotter in New Zealand. And it's done a super job. Has soundness issues, only its 15th start. Actually follows out Humble Lad in the heat on Wednesday. We'll get to that in a sec. So not a strong series, Greg. Couple of horses underperformed on the first night. Tough Monarch, Funky Monkey had a gallop. So Majestic Man, we'll make that one easy. It should win. Good bet in the Majestic Man heat, Greg. Really like this bet. In fact, my bet of the night. I reckon a lot of muscle. The former Paul Nairn horse sits on the back of Majestic Man and runs second. Might even push him close. That's my bet of the week. I love that in the last race on Wednesday night. The other heat, Greg, interesting one, which I know you've been doing a bit of study on too. Humble Lad actually galloped on the first night. They had his shoes wrong. And Luke McCarthy's told me he's changed the back shoes. So back shoes are better. He expects to lead from barrier 1, which puts Pink Galahs probably outside him, which I don't know backing there from there, and puts Timothy Red, or Timothy Who, as some people in New Zealand would call him, puts him potentially in the trail, Greg. So I reckon you can make a book for yourself there, Humble Lad, a little bit of a bet, and maybe cover on Timothy Red, who was the fairy tale story of the first night, Greg. So there's a little synopsis of what we saw, what it means for Bathurst. And then, Greg, we head to Newcastle next Sunday. Then the barrier draw for the 2 finals is next Monday night. So we can talk about all of that and have a special guest on the show next week, Greg. That'll be Luke McCarthy, when we talk about his chances of winning both finals, but more importantly, the big team he and Belinda have in the pacing final.
Thanks for that, Michael. Good insight there to the Inter-Dominion, and I'm quite keen on Humble Lad. And I actually spoke to Phil Williamson about this time last year when he won, of course, on Cup and Show Day, and he said if he can make the final, the 3,000 metres will be right up his alley. $17 if you want to back him at tab.co.nz in that final. We're about to take a short break here on your box seat. When we come back, the domestic preview will be to the fore, and we will hopefully find you some winners. You're in the home straight in your box seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors, one of which is the Cambridge Raceway, of course, and that's the first place we go for our domestic preview. Mr. Ibiza here, Michael, this is him running third in a Sires Stakes heat, a Woodland Sires Stakes heat, and he was excellent. Spoke to Todd Mitchell about him. That's back in the 22nd of October. He hasn't been publicly seen, but he's very pleased with where he's at. He's got a nice barrier draw of 2. I'll have Bubbles is drawn alongside him, so there might be a bit of fireworks early, but gee, on that performance behind the Barry Purdon and Scott Phelan team, you would think he would be pretty hard to beat, even in a fresh condition.
I was going to tip him as bet of the week, Greg, but I just can't because it'll be too short. But yeah, I thought he'd be winning, and I thought it's actually a really tasty meeting at Cambridge. Sometimes when Alexandra Park race on Friday, Cambridge can be just okay, and I'll be honest, Greg, sometimes it doesn't interest me at all because the horses aren't that good. But there's horses like him who are genuine Group 1 horses who will be contesting good races turning up there, Greg. And I thought it was a really strong program in lots of different ways. Obviously, BD Joe being the main attraction. So good on Cambridge. It's hard when you're racing Alexandra Park on a Friday night, Greg. That's not much fun. And shortly, Greg, people from Auckland will be able, you probably forgot about this because you live in the South Island, you don't care, but people from Auckland will be able to go to Cambridge, which is almost like a miracle, Greg. It's been...
Well, I care about Auckland, Michael. Sometimes I care a little bit less about what you're doing in Auckland, but yes, I do care about this
Greg,
situation.
When I was in Cup Week in Christchurch, I forgot Auckland was in lockdown, because you just do. When you go out for dinner, you forget that people don't do that in Auckland. I got back home and thought, shall I go out for dinner? I was like, So I think a lot of people forget. Now, these trainers and drivers in South Auckland, and again the ones in Waikato inversely, have had to rely on each other so much, and it's been really, really cool that they've worked together. But yeah, I'm picking a few of them are pretty keen to actually get down there for once.
Yeah, just after 6 o'clock, 7-race program there. Let's roll into Friday night. Speaking of Alexandra Park, gee, there's some excellent racing there. First one we want to have a look at is Lady of the Light. She looked like she was going to get beaten here, Michael, in her heat of the Dunstan Horsefeed Sire Stakes. She's got another one this week, but gee, she was brave here.
Yeah, she's a pretty good filly. I think she just got a bit unbalanced, and Macca was kind of, a little bit relaxed about things around the bend. I think he realised the other horse might run out of puff, but she's pretty tough. She's going to need to be. It's a pretty decent race this week, but again, she just keeps on winning. So I expect her to win again, Greg, and then we'll see how she goes when those Southern girls get to town, because as you mentioned earlier in the show to John Dunn, there's a lot of depth in this crop.
Yep, there certainly is. So that's race 6. She's number 11, so she cops that draw courtesy of that win we've just watched there. The other horse that's turning up at Alexandra Park knows the joint well, and he's off the back of an IRT New Zealand Cup victory. His name is Copy That. Here he is in front. Now this week, Michael, this will be interesting to get your take on just how you think this race will pan out. We're talking about race number 7, and he comes up with the wide barrier draw over the mile at Alexandra Park. Major Jealous, who had his measure 2 or 3 starts back in his career. Darling Me comes up with barrier 1. Need You Now is in this race, and of course won a Harness Jewels over the short course. So will Copy That just be lining up and winning?
I think so, Greg, unless they've been feeding him and not working him. I mean, he did beat South Coast Arden and South Assured, so I totally agree. It has the potential to be a nicky race if they all muck around. I often think, Greg, in these situations, the best thing a driver can do, and obviously I don't drive horses for a job, so they might think I'm wrong, just go forward. Just keep going forward and someone will give you the lead. And even if you don't, just sit parked outside them like King of Swing might at Bathurst and just sit there and go as slow as you want. I can't imagine he's going to get beat, Greg, off level marks. I think he'll win. And then he's going to head to Victoria, where Chris Finocio is actually going to be training, or caretaker training him. With the border starting to open up, Ray Green's suggesting he'll go with the horse. He can't actually come back until January 17th, so by then he would have done a stack of racing. But Ray eventually wants to come back for the sale, so Chris Finocio may look after him, Greg, and then it all depends on what he does after the Hunter Cup, whether he goes to Sydney for the Miracle Mile or not. They don't sound totally enamoured with the Miracle Mile, but he might even be second favourite for it, Greg, so that could change a lot. There's a lot of moving parts to the story with him, but at this stage, Ray intending, all things being well this Friday, on going with him to Victoria.
Yeah, excellent race program there, Alexandra Park on Friday night, and they start again just after 6 o'clock. Addington Raceway switches to Saturday night this week, and it's part of the Christmas at the Races, so they do have some functions which will be underway. Loving the Port, won on Cup Day, and then did this on Show Day, Michael. Miss Alyssa got her up the passing lane. Regal Attire is right in the fight there too, but I spoke to Phil Williamson about Loving the Port, so it's race 8, number 6 on Saturday night. Wouldn't need to go a lot better than this to be winning. I thought Miss Alyssa was very good last week coming off the back mark, so the form's been franked again. And yeah, I think Loving the Port's a type of horse that can eventually make its way to open company, so there's got to be a few more wins soon.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm not disappointed. I know the punters were, but getting beaten by Miss Alyssa, who was very informed during Cup Week, got beaten for speed a touch, did not shirk his responsibilities in the home straight, didn't look like he was going to gallop, even though he's got a slightly clunky type of a gait, which needs some cleaning up. Lots to like about the performance, Greg. And we keep raving on about the fact that you've got to follow the Cup Week form. Well, his form was a win in his second, so we can be following that on Saturday night.
And Michael, there's a heck of a lot of form in this race. Idle Stewartia was back in grade and was good last time. Boss Kenny, who we've highlighted on the show a couple of times. Repeat Pat's 2 from 2 was scratched last week. The likes of the Bloss, who's been racing well, and Regular Tyre, and the ultra consistent Show Me the Grey. So an excellent contest, race number 8. Let's go back a couple of races though and remind us of how good It's All About Faith went during the Cup meeting. In front, beating Shan Noble, takes on a good field this week, Michael. So this is in the Johnny Walker pace, where it was successful during the Cup meeting. Shan Noble got close. It's gone on and raced well on that very wet day last Saturday. This week starts from the outside, so it's a similar setup, Michael, to the Cup Day performance where he was back from 13s into $4. Takes on Sam Hara, who was second to Coravelli Star in that race. Steal the Show, who unfortunately came out of the Geraldine Cup, but of course ran 4th in the New Zealand Cup. Laver, who was 3rd in the Geraldine Cup. No Time Like Now, who was 2nd last time in that Timaru Summer Cup behind Above and Beyond. And Archman, who was the horse I suggested might be one to follow post-Cup week. Now, Archman takes on a heck of a good field this week, but he's already finished 4th in that hot race won by It's All About Faith we've just seen there. So, gee, this for a field of only 7 runners, there's going to be a lot of form to follow out of this.
Yeah, I don't want to be backing It's All About Faith in any race where Laver is, because It's All About Faith got 2 really easy leads during Cup week. Got actually handed the lead both times. And when he gets handed the lead, he just loves it, gets in the zone, he feels big and strong, and off he goes. Even if he does get across all those horses at the start, because I don't want to ever back him when he's back in the field. That's just a zilch. Even if he gets across these horses at the start, something like Laver is going to try and come and annoy him. I think it's a tricky race. He might just have gone to that level with his confidence, Greg, where he keeps on winning. And I'm not saying he's not going to, but I'm not going to back him to find out. Because if he won that by 3 lengths, I wouldn't be surprised. And if he finished 5th, I wouldn't be surprised. And that's the story of It's All About Faith. Maybe, with Mark suggesting to us on Tuesday this week, they are considering heading to the Chariots of Fire. Maybe the indications are that mentally he's more dialed in now, Greg. But I don't want to take short odds to find out.
No, I can understand that, but if he rolls forward and gets the lead, he'll take some beating. But you're right, with Laver in there, that might not just be as straightforward as you might think. Akaroa Cup Day, it is on Sunday at time of recording. We didn't have the fields for that, Michael, but the $15,000 Akaroa Cup does include the Timaru Summer Cup winner Above and Beyond, last week's Geraldine Cup winner in Coravelli Star, and there was a big nomination for this race. And yeah, some of these grass track races are going to be really well sought after in the next month or 2. Of course, you've got Westport, Reefton, you've got Banks Peninsula on the 29th. There's going to be some great contests, isn't there?
Look, it's an integral part of what we do and who we are. I'll be honest with you, Greg, I don't bet very often on the grass. I always bet at Westport on Boxing Day because it's important to me because I'm a coaster and I want to support them. But I won't bet at Akaroa this week. Probably not. And it's not because it's not great racing, Greg. It's just not my type of racing. But the great thing about it is it's a huge economic driver for the industry. Big fields, a lot of people bet the bigger the fields are, the more money you take. And it's an interesting dichotomy with what goes on in Australia, because in Australia and in Victoria, they've got away with standing starts and grass tracks basically don't exist, because they think the quickest way to put it on Sky is fast mobile racing, turn it over and get it done. And yet, ironically, the evidence you see with turnovers for grass track racing here with the big fields, and most of them are standing starts, Greg, is compelling that it actually goes the other way. I think it's a crucially important part of what we do. I'm thrilled to see the fact that Crandall Getty and Mark Purden and Hayden Cullen and all these people support this type of racing, as we saw last week. And obviously the Duns are huge supporters of it, Greg. So, as I said, it's not for everybody. And the only advice I would give people is I don't think it's a place to be betting in 4 figures if you're that way inclined. It's not a place to be jumping on with those really big bets, Greg. But everything doesn't have to be about that. For me, it's like NPC rugby versus the All Blacks. They're different things, doesn't make them less enjoyable.
No, you're right there. And hey, on a good news front, spoke to Sarah O'Reilly, who got a clearance from the doctor on Monday. You remember she had a burst appendix, so she was sidelined. She's back. She'll be at the Wingatui meeting on Friday and hopefully Akaroa on Sunday. But I spoke to her and she said, yep, really keen to get back into it, and well, it'll be nice to see her smiley face and her rear talent back on the track, because she can certainly drive that young lady. Hits and misses. Let's have a look at those. Icon was well backed in the 6th there at Addington, as was Stylish Memphis and Franco Mack, who didn't bolt in the last, but he got the job done. Plenty of money for Old Town Road. I don't know how they got $2.70 there, because it closed about $1.40, and one of Brent Mangos's winning drives for Team Dunn was Dance Till Dawn. True Fantasy got beat. Miss Alyssa got beat off that awkward 20 metres and tried to go around them again, as did Crystal Daytom and Brian Baru. So that's the TAB hits and misses. Rakiro Racing are supporters of our best bets of the week. Last week mine was scratch, so money back there. And Michael, you ran second with Spirit of St. Louis. So we need to find the punters a winner here.
It was the last leg of my multi too, Greg. I took an All McCarthy multi and I got beaten on the nose by the line. Wish he had a nose as big as me, would have been fine, poor old Spirit of St. Louis. I actually like one at the Inters. I'm going to go nice and early, Wednesday. I like Majestic Man to lead, a lot of muscle to sit close enough to him, I think, in the trail. I think they'll run the Quinella, Greg. So you can take fixed odds Quinellas. I would suggest you do this as soon as you watch this, because I think a lot of muscle, who got to about $21 and $3 a place, Greg, it's also a good place bet. I reckon he'll start $10 third favourite. So for what it's worth, we'll go to the Interdominions, keep it nice and trans-Tasman with a New Zealand flavour.
Yeah, and I'll go to the last race on Saturday night at Addington Raceway. A horse called Better's Tart, who is trained down in the Ashburton region. Look, last time had that barrier draw. Brent White does the training, led and won Neville heat. Look, went to Geraldine, forget about that, missed away at the start. Unlucky at Timaru, the start prior. Stephen McNally, beautiful draw. If it leads, Franco Mack's in that race, and there's a couple other decent horses there, but I reckon a cracking bet in the last harness race and the last domestic race, of course, on Saturday night. Michael, that pretty much wraps up our show, but as was the case last week, and as going to be the case for every week over the next month or 6 weeks, there's a heck of a lot of racing, so do your form, and good luck on the punt.
Yeah, looking forward to having Luke McCarthy as our special guest next week, Greg. The Interdominion finals will be on, and we'll talk to him and also have a word to Anthony Butt about what we can expect from Majestic Man. But a lot of heats, 10 of them, Greg, between now and next week's show. So looking forward to getting into this Interdominion, and good to see Addington with a Saturday night. Not everybody's cup of tea, Greg. Saturday night harness racing this week. Going to add a bit of flavour to the end of the day after the gallops.
Yep, it certainly is that. That's been your box seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. A big thank you to them once again. Michael and I will see you in a week.